thank you for coming. And thank you that we had you here for the masterclass. What did you think about it?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's given me a tremendous opportunity to pass it on my legacy and share it with everyone else. And of course, making a new contact with the public in a different way, because they most of the time they put you on a pedestal, and they're afraid to approach you and talk to you. And to me, it feels a wonderful sensation to be able to communicate at a different level. How I felt, I'm excited, I'm proud to be here, and I feel richer, mainly because of the experience that I had in 2 days. It was an experience of a lifetime for me. It was so enriching my life, so enriching my everything I believe in, because the audience, you and everybody else around here, and of course the kids on stage, gave me all that trust and love that it's required, I think, in the world to have a little bit more harmony and a bit more peace. So to me, it's vital what's happened in these 2 days. And it really, you can see the way I even talk now, it really charged me with energy, and I thank you.
Yes, we thank you. It's balsam for the soul, as they say. And I think the level was quite high from those candidates.
Absolutely.
Don't you think so?
Not only vocally, the level was very high, but mentally. That is very hard, because we see maybe some people that have tremendous gifts, but they don't have the capacity to allow you to mold. And it's wonderful to choose, and of course it's your choices, that I came to this class where I found these children that had a fantastic gift, but also had a psychological and physical potential to learn. Because learning, it's not always the easiest way. We think we're learning, but we don't. We just give ourselves taboos and limits. We don't really learn. Learning means humility, means you are on that day ready to start all over again. You always, and I always do, try to start all over again. And please believe me, I know a lot and I know nothing. I start from zero, and when I get students, I try to put myself into their vocality, into their shoes, to understand what can stimulate them and how I can pass on my teachings, my beliefs.
Yes. Now, where you were specific on, there was the bel canto technique. It was also the repertoire, of course, that they have given to you. But do you think this is one of the most important basic techniques you need also for later on the Verismo and other?
I truly believe that, because I really believe that even Wagner believed in the school of bel canto. Bel canto doesn't, yes, bel canto, it's Rossini, Donizetti, Bellini. You have as composers, but that's not the bel canto we're referring to. Bel canto, it's actually the foundation of the Italian school, where you have vowels, you have consonants, you have breathing. Not much more than that, except from flexibility. But flexibility comes from within those two rules, where you know how to pronounce and you know how to breathe and use your breath. And I believe every single language is based on open throat, even French, you name it, open throat support. It cannot go anywhere else. It is very true that it's much more elaborated when you go to a German repertoire. I do teach my kids some of the German, but I always say, I can place it on your voice, but then you go to a coach to help you with the phonetics, because I don't speak German and I don't know German. But the school is the same. And as you've seen it in the class also, a young man was the same as the ladies.
Yes.
Breathing and support, it's valid for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I would preach to the end of my life, this bel canto school. I don't know if it's a bel canto school, but it is the old Italian school where they all actually sang tremendously, a huge variety of repertoire. Like Gili was able to sing Canio as well as Elixiro. That is based on the same principle.
Yes. Well, all those students are going to the competition now. Do you think that it's useful to do competitions in a career?
Tremendously. For my life, competitions were the most important. But then again, you have to choose your competitions. Even in my time, but see, if I was in Romania, they knew the selection of the good competitions, which were supposed to mean something to your life. And s-Hertogenbosch has been for me the one that really gave me a print for my life to have, because it gave me not only an understanding of where I am and what I'm doing with my vocality, but to be acknowledged and the opportunities that are given by the competitions. And what I find, because now I go in juries, I find the competition in s-Hertogenbosch that gives much more opportunities than usual around the world. And lots of competitions around the world, they just charge the money, and it's politics. Lots of kids pass because somebody in the jury or somebody's been with the conductor. It's many of situations like this. And of course, you can't really fight the flow. But I do recommend to my students to be very careful where they go and what they do. There are very few that do what you are doing here, the work you're doing. And what's even more remarkable, to have this class and the opportunity to the Dutch people, because I think we all need to support our own, and it's great to have a nation behind that gives that sense. And you know, in this crisis that it's happening, financial crisis, I think it's even more remarkable that you allow and your organization is making efforts, because I cannot even imagine how many sacrifices and how much hard work you probably have to do on a day-by-day basis, on a detailed, to maintain this going and to keep this standards high.
Yes. Yes, we try really to make a connection with the young singers and give them a possibility to develop their careers.
Well, it shows,
yes.
It shows. You can look, anybody can look in the history of the s-Hertogenbosch and see how many people actually became professionals like me. And that's a sign.
Not only professionals, but also famous.
That's true. That's a sign that that's the good foundation. And what's wonderful, you didn't deteriorate through time. Lots of competitions sort of still there, but they let go. You don't. But Annett, with your background and with your career, it's unbelievable, the love that you give to everybody. Because not many people had a career and be able to be as generous as you are. And that's one of the things that I congratulate you, because it's very important to feel for your singers, to live with them, to give them that impetus that they can have a career. And that's why, once again, it was a tremendous experience. In 2 days, I'm rich.
Wonderful. And what do you think about the theaters? Do they give young singers enough opportunities to develop in their career or in their Fach nowadays?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't think so. Unfortunately, the situation is that in the past, if you remember, all the artists were much more groomed into the repertoire of an opera house. Now they want a ready-made stars, and they don't exist. And all they do is to actually block the vocality. And then they complain that the singers cannot last, and then they complain that the singers are pushing, and that it's all a vicious circle. So it's a pity that we have so many talents around, and yet sometimes you get the artists that have stronger nerves, not necessarily bigger talent. Unfortunately, because in this business, what I try, and I think teachers and companies should really teach their students, is to tell them, make your stomach very tough, because here is tough, but out there it's even worse. Yes, you would say it's competition everywhere and they should come up to the challenge. No, I don't believe that. Competition should come with a very positive input, not with critics who will start throwing comments that have nothing to do with vocality. We had beautiful critics in the past that really knew what a singer, some of them were singers themselves. Yeah. And because of course you need criticism, but do it in a way that that person is going to improve and not to block it. In the same way it's happening with producers, and they are too much hung up into movements that are not quite connected to the vocality. On the other hand, maybe also the teachers should really develop a little bit like you've seen it in the masterclass, where I ask their bodies to embrace the opera. And at that point, when you have that character already within your breath and within your body, it doesn't matter where your producer is sending you. He can send you on a roller skates. You can still carry on with your own. But yes, answering to your question, I think there can be more help of coaches. Like now when I've just finished Tosca and Covent Garden, you have coaches everywhere. Coaches that understand what's happening there. Yeah. Language coach who explains to you, she's a singer. Yeah. And explains to you through the language, the sense, and the vocality and the breathing. You have piano coaches who, Italy's, some of the houses are the same, where they make the personality. And I remember Sala Prove, one of the most important things in life in my past, that used to be where the conductor works with one person at the time. Because when you work just with a group, it's too many inhibitions that tend to be there. So I remember one of the most fantastic and famous, still she is Janine Rice. She's got a French, she's a French coach, but she's a pianist, she was a singer, so she can talk to you on a more embracing. But that's very rare. Yeah. Not everybody can afford. That's another problem, that the governments are not supporting as much the arts, because in this economical time, the first thing they cut out is the arts. And that is a pity, because it's an inheritance. We live on that, that's a tradition, and people need food for their soul.
True. Yes. So I think there's a good task for experienced singers to insist to people who are leading the opera houses or whatever, that there's a need to support the young
think it
singers.
should. I think more people should really talk. But, you know, I don't have anything to lose at the moment. No. Many people have a lot of interest. Yes. They don't want to lose positions. They don't want. Everybody's frightened on this world, and it's a pity. You know what? Somehow, I'm led to believe that if we go into schools, train more teachers to have a multiple possibility of education. I think it goes a little bit, you know, because if a teacher takes a group of children to a theater and explains and makes it an introduction, then those children will become a generation that will support the arts. So it's not just hitting the people that we have now. It's too late now. It's a little bit like in Romania, there was a little joke. A mother goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I need to teach my child discipline." And the doctor says, "How old is your child?" She says, 3, too late. It's absolutely going back to childhood. And of course, teachers, I see it all over the world, Romania as well, they seem to be permanently suffering with payments, with whatever it's in there. There are not enough teachers dedicated like it used to be in the past. And I think one thing leads to the other. It's a pity. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's when we have more space to have all this anger and people, because when you don't have enough spiritual food for your mind and soul, then the negativity comes in with anger, with revenge, with negativity, with hate, with all this thing. I see it coming from there because it's too much space left.
Well, I think that's the broadness, not only the singing, but also maybe inspiration through literature or traditions, or like in earlier times, I think last age, that people went to artists to learn the thing they did, and nowadays it's too strict on the technique or on the
that's right.
On the whatever, the pedagogic or whatsoever. But I think there's something more, a bigger swimming pool to to have water out.
I find that through my own child, because the way he's taught in the school, they come with notes on their hands, they write it on the board, or they spread the pages around and give it to the children to learn at home. I wasn't brought up with that. And yes, you're absolutely right. And when I said arts, I wasn't really referring just to the opera. I was referring to ballet, I was referring to theatre, I was referring to paintings. I grew up with all this in my generation. And I feel that it gave me strength for later on to hang on to something when I'm in need of kind of support, because the need of kind of support permanently, yes, we blame a government and the politicians, but they are a result of those schools as well. So I always go back to how a child is supposed to be nurtured. That's the most important part of our lives, and duty to take those kids, to give them. Don't ignore, don't think, oh, that's not important. The sad thing, I find it in the society today, is that we don't read books anymore. They have to put prices down everywhere I'm looking, because the books are sitting there, nobody's buying books anymore. They go on the internet, that's another problem with so many games, and so we didn't have all that. But saying that, if we could, instead of making it easier for the children and say, no, we can have a calculator. That's what they bring in the school. They shouldn't really have all that artificiality that brings in, it's too easy. Then the mind starts slowing down, and then you come to a point when you just become a robot. All these movies that are futuristic, I just see the future, where unfortunately we don't talk the same language. They just narrow into computer. And the other thing that happens is ageism. You can go with that computer until, let's say, 30, 35, and then there's nothing else after that. I wish these children would be more groomed into how rich the art, the museums are, how we can fight with intellectual things instead of fighting with our primary instincts. It's not good enough. It doesn't make us better human beings.